way to the end, and there's bathrooms. So if you need bathrooms, that's where they're at. Otherwise, we are so glad to have you, and we're so thankful for John Vanderhoof and his team for organizing this, and we thank Mike Riddle for coming. Mike is the founder and president of Creation Training Initiative. He is an international speaker and educator on biblical creation, apologetics, and Christian education. And I know that he was here sometime before I got here, so probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and I heard good reports about that. So we're excited to have you, and he paid me to tell you he has 6 cute grandchildren. Adorable, maybe, is what he said. All right, thank you, Mike, for coming, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, thank you very much for coming out this evening. Um, the facilities for you military people, there's trees out back. You'll understand that one. Tonight's presentation is Refuting Human Evolution. We won't get into really technical things. I like to speak so we can understand it. So, this is a common problem with our youth. They get taught in our public school system that we evolved from ape-like creatures, specifically chimpanzees. That's where we came from. So we want to show that that simply is not true. As a matter of fact, there's nothing in evolution that is true. Evolution is scientifically impossible. So we'll just start with there. Then we get all done. If you have some questions, I'll see what answers I can come up with. So we're going to do this in parts, try and organize it. Let's establish the foundation for this talk here. Number one, the existence of God. Without a creator God, nothing could exist. You heard that this morning. I start with that in a lot of my talks. Without a creator God, nothing could exist, therefore God must exist. That sets the ground rules right there. God does exist. Well, the evolutionists might come back and say, well, no, we don't believe he exists. Well, then you have to tell me where your matter came from. And you know what? They can't do that, can they? Because you know what comes from nothing? Nothing. That ends that argument right there. Their whole foundation for everything they believe is based on faith, that somehow matter got here for this universe. We have a very reasonable explanation, very reasonable faith. We have a creator God who told us how he did it all. So what does our creator say? His word, the Bible, is true. 2 Timothy 3:16, all scripture is God-breathed. All of it's good for teaching, even the book of Numbers. John 17:17, thy word is truth. So the Bible testifies that his word is true. Where does this testimony come from? The creator of all things. He has to exist. He told us in his book, it is true. So God created man in his own image. The image of God, he created him male and female. Whoa. That says a lot today, doesn't it? That doesn't leave any other choices. This is one of the things our youth need to learn. They need to be able to defend this male and female only, because they're getting slaughtered out there with all this it and whatever pronouns. And this is something we all need to start protecting our youth with. Not only are they getting slaughtered, there's some of them starting to believe it. So that was part one. This is going fast, isn't it? Ready for part two? Let's talk about the mechanism for change. Let's go after the foundation. We can go after all these different fossils. You know, you take care of one fossil, they're going to go to another one, another one, another one. Let's just destroy the entire thing. How about that? Let's go after the mechanism for change. See, if there's no mechanism for change, Darwinian evolution change, then the issue is dead. And this is where I like to do it. I like to use tactics and strategy. I have a whole section I teach on critical thinking skills, tactics, and strategies. Natural selection. Our goal here is to show natural selection does not exist. So we'll start here. If you're approached with somebody and ask you about natural selection, or maybe you want to approach an evolutionist, say, I'm interested in this natural selection thing. Could you tell me how it works? 3 questions. What is natural selection and how does it work? They don't get asked questions like that. Won't know why? We're not very good at asking questions. We like to be on the defense. Folks, if all you have is defense, what's the best you can do? High at best. We need to learn how to be on the offense. Know where I got that information from how to do that? It's called the Bible. The Bible teaches how to do this. Jesus several times answered a question with a question or challenged them first. So, first question, what is it that natural selection actually does and how does it work? They've never thought that thing through, most of them. They've just been taught natural selection, and that stops them. I've been in a debate one time with two evolutionists, geneticist and another scientist. And I asked them this question. They fumbled all over themselves. They didn't know how to answer that one. That's question number one, and you will remember it. Notice the words I just used? You will remember these. Question number two. Selection implies intelligence. Who or what is the intelligence doing your selection? They don't have a clue about this one. As soon as they open up and say, oh, the environment, folks, does wind and rocks, do either one of those have any brains to do anything? See, selection implies there's some intelligence back there that can make decisions. The environment doesn't make any decisions for you. And question number three, if they get these two right, they still lose. Isn't that what? They're in a lose-lose situation on these three questions. They cannot win. If they get that one right, they say, oh, it's your DNA, which is the correct answer, your DNA, and there's a few other things we're going to talk about. Is there any observational evidence where that vast amount of information our DNA came from that does not require me to use faith? Wow. Because the only answer I get is, Mike, over millions of years, mutations. Wait a minute. Has anybody observed millions of years? When somebody comes up and uses the term millions of years, what that means is they do not have the observable evidence. That's just good critical thinking skills. And they're getting by with this all the time, millions of years. It means they don't have the evidence. And I got a question here. This question I might ask. Anybody here want another mutation? They never seem to say yes. Why is that? Because most all known mutations are detrimental or neutral. The only recognized beneficial ones never have a gain of information. They always cause a loss of information or functionality. That's why nobody volunteers to have a mutation. Right there, they're admitting evolution doesn't work. So those are the three critical thinking questions you want to ask about natural selection. What is it? How does it work? Who or what is your intelligence? And show me the observable evidence where the vast amount of information came from in our DNA that does not require me to use faith. Okay. The claim, this is what they're going to claim. This is in their works. The environmental stresses do this. That's what causes it. Well, folks, environmental stresses are nothing more than something we get exposed to, like hot and cold, high altitude, things like that. They're neither favorable or unfavorable. What really determines how you react is already built into your body. In other words, the existing information in you determines how you will react to the environment. The environment makes no decisions for you. Here's the demo. I want to show you what they really mean by natural selection. If somebody comes up to you and says, do you believe in natural selection? If you say yes, you're in trouble. You're in deep trouble, because this is what they use natural selection for. Here's an evolutionist in his book, What Evolution Is. Natural selection, was truly a revolutionary concept, the exclusive direction-giving factor to evolution. I thought God gave us the ability to direct ourselves. What he's basically saying there is natural selection replaces God. In the evolution mind, natural selection is the replacement for God. Now you see why you don't want to say, yes, you believe in natural selection? Because you just told the evolutionists you don't believe in God. Daniel Dennett, atheist. In a single stroke, the idea of evolution by natural selection unifies the realm of, what's that? Unifies the realm of life, meaning and purpose with the realm of space and time. Natural selection gives us meaning and purpose. That's another way of saying that replaces God. Jerry Coyne. Natural selection remains the only explanation for the wondrous adaptive complexity of organisms. I thought God gave us that ability. He's saying the same thing, isn't he? Natural selection to the evolutionists replaces God. Here's a very interesting one, PhD in zoology. The trick is, how do you talk about natural selection without implying the rigidity of law? We use it as almost an active participant, almost like a God. In fact, you could substitute the word God for natural selection in a lot of evolutionary writings, and you'd think you were listening to a theologian. He is an evolutionist making that statement. You get the picture now. Natural selection is used to replace God. So, I'm going to show you how some of this works. How many like a really hot climate here? How many like really hot? How many like 110, 115, besides me? I'm out running and hiking in 110. I just enjoy it. So nobody likes it. Okay. So what we're going to do is take this front row, and in July, we're going to take you to Death Valley. Will you survive? Me too. You'll survive. You might be a little uncomfortable, but after a couple of weeks there, where it gets down to 90 degrees, you're going to be wearing jackets. Something happened. Let's take a look at this one now. How many like really cold temperatures? Or don't like cold? Anybody here not like cold? Okay, we're going to take, you too, and we're going to take you up to, let's say, Antarctica in January. Will you survive? Yes, you will. You'll survive. You won't be comfortable. You'll survive. But when it gets up to maybe 5 degrees, you're going to be wearing shorts. Something changed in there. We've got to figure out what's causing this change to get to the real root of what's happening. How about this one? Anybody know what state Pikes Peak's in? Who? Colorado. 14,110 feet high. I'm one of the crazy ones that have hiked up and ran up it. 13-mile run up there. 14,110 feet. Now, if we were to take you and drop you off on the top of the mountain, fly up there, somehow get you to the top of the mountain, and as soon as you get there, you can drive up. There's a 16-mile drive up there. Get there. We want you running around as fast as you can. What's going to happen to you? You're going to have a hard time breathing. You're going to pass out, and some of you might have a cardiac arrest. But after a couple weeks up there running around, all of a sudden, nothing happens. What is going on here? Somehow, your body is adjusting. What is allowing that adjustment? Well, let's do another. Anybody like to swim here? Okay. Okay, we're going to take this group right there. You're going to get to go to the deep end of the pool, 15 feet deep, and want you standing there for an hour with no equipment. Will you survive? No. Wait a minute. We survived all the others we adjusted. Why not this one? Can't breathe. But why didn't you adjust? You don't like the hot weather, and some of you can survive. Let's do one more. Anybody want to go for a spacewalk? Okay. Well, you're really a glutton here. Okay. We're going to let you go for a spacewalk with no spacesuit. Will you survive? No. A couple minutes, you're gone. Why couldn't you adjust to this? What's happening here? What is allowing your body to adjust within limits to certain situations? It's called pre-programmed information in your DNA. It's not natural selection, folks. God has programmed information in our DNA that allows us to adjust within limits. You can't survive in 200-degree weather. You won't make it very long. You can't survive in 100 below. You won't make it very long. So God has programmed into all species the ability to adjust within limits. It has nothing to do with natural selection. It has everything to do with what God has pre-programmed into us. In other words, we need to start giving God the credit for all of this and not natural selection, something that does not exist, something that's been invented. Okay? Take another example. You're in an automobile. You're in a car. You're going 60 miles an hour, and you got cruise control on. And you start going up a hill. What initially happens to that car when it starts going up a hill? It starts to slow down. But then all of a sudden, something happens and it speeds back up to 60. Did the hill make any decisions for that car? That would be the environment. No, made no decision. See, when cars are designed, they have sensors in them. Cars actually have sensors in them. And these sensors are constantly monitoring the speed of the car. And you got that cruise control on. When it starts slowing down and hits a low threshold, that sensor sends a signal to another part of the car that says speed back up to 60. It's all pre-programmed. That is the exact same way the body works. The environment makes no decisions for you whatsoever. You just go into the environment, something you endure. Randy Galuza has written a lot on this. Organisms use innate logic mechanisms, pre-programmed information, to rapidly produce solutions to environmental challenges that are so targeted they can be predicted. In other words, what they have discovered is all living things, animals, plants, and humans, have sensors in them. And these sensors are continually monitoring the environment. And when something changes, those sensors send a signal back to the brain, which then sends signals to the other parts of the body to adjust within limits. That's how the body works. It has nothing to do with something called natural selection, because natural selection has no brains. It's all pre-programmed by God to do all this. Even the evolutionists are now seeing this, especially in their engineering departments, that there are sensors in everything. Computational Neurobiology Center, College of Engineering, University of Missouri. When the sensors, notice that, when the sensors of the human body detect a stimulus, they send this information through the nervous system like wires to the brain. The brain decides what to do based on the information received, not the environment, folks. It's the brain. Randy Galuza again. The evidence today supports a design-based organism-focused model called continuous environmental tracking. That's what we're calling this now. Continuous environmental tracking, CET. We don't talk about natural selection unless somebody else brings it up. And if somebody brings up natural selection, what are you going to say? What is it and how does it work? What is your intelligence? Who's making the intelligent decisions in there? And show me the information, where all that information came from. That does not require me to use faith. That's what you do. And remember his previous quote, this is so consistent, it's predictable how an organism's going to react. So continuous environmental tracking. That is centered on the innate capabilities of organisms to actively track environmental changes. That's how you can adjust to hot and cold very quickly when it starts changing temperatures. And when it comes this summer, when it gets down 90 degrees, 80 degrees, it might be a little chilly for you. Your body will have adjusted. So what is natural selection then? It's an artificial mechanism devised by man to replace the power and intelligence of God. And our youth, can I use a technical term here? Our youth are being snookered in the public education system to believe in natural selection. And we're allowing it to happen. According to evolutionists, the design of all life comes from evolution through natural selection. It replaces God. So where's the mechanism for change? It's built into us, into our DNA, in our brains. God pre-programmed it all there for us. No new information. Once you are conceived, got that what I just said there? At conception, you have all the information you'll ever have for the rest of your life. All you can do is lose information. That starts happening about what, age 60? You don't get any new information. It's all there at conception, which means at conception, you are a human being. Your information says so. And there's another little thing. I'm just going to add this in. Don't have it in the PowerPoint slides. Anybody heard of something called epigenetic? EPA. Epigenetics. That what epi means is on top of or beside. We've actually discovered in the last couple dozen years we have other information that's not part of our DNA. on top of our DNA. And what this does, it's part of the instructions in our body that actually allow us to change rapidly without having any mutations. And then when the situation is over, you instantly go back to your previous norm there. It's a whole new field. Darwin had no clue about any of this. And unfortunately, a lot of teachers don't either. These are smart people in the schools. Our high school teachers, they earn their degrees, but they've never been taught the truth, so they don't know the truth. So they continue on teaching natural selection. And if they were to teach what I'm telling you here today, they would lose their job. So we have to be very careful how we approach this. Ooh, genetics. Let's do a little genetics. How about that? Did you know the information today that we get taught in the schools, we're only 1% difference in our DNA from chimpanzees? Does that make anybody feel like eating a banana right about now? 1% difference. That's what we're being taught. Textbooks promote this idea. We learn this in biology classes. Many university professors teach humans and chimps are closely related. Many science journals promote this idea. We're only 1% difference in our DNA. 5 facts about this. 5 facts. Number one, that 1% claim came back in 1975. That's when they claimed we were only 1% different. That was long before we had mapped the human genome or the chimpanzee genome. We didn't know all about the DNA back then. So how did they know we were only 1% difference? What they did was only took parts of the DNA that were similar and left all the ones that were not out of the experiment. The whole thing is bogus. Only limited to DNA comparisons that were compatible. The first draft of human DNA was not published until 2001. How did they know 1975? They didn't. It was an incomplete and false experiment done, passed off as true evolution. In 2007, new published research indicated the real difference is 5%. However, in 2012, the media and schools continue to spread the story of 1%. It is well known we're at least 5% different, but they still teach 1%. You see, we have a problem in our education system. And unfortunately, about 90% of Christian youth still attend public schools, and this is what they're being taught. And it's not being combated in the churches or in the homes. So what are they going to believe? 1%. Comparisons of the whole genome, not just the selected parts, have now revealed we're at least 15% difference in our DNA between us and chimpanzees. Still sounds close, doesn't it? Well, let's take a look at it. Jeffrey Tompkins, PhD in genetics. Based on the most recent unbiased and comprehensive research, chimpanzees' DNA is no more than 85% similar to humans. Right? Saying the same thing, 15% difference. Human and chimp DNA sequences share about 85% similarity, not the incorrect 98% or 99% figure that classroom textbooks often cite to support you. In other words, our textbooks, the writers deliberately tell false information. This means, got this, 15%, folks, means there's 450 million differences between us and chimpanzees. See, 15% doesn't sound like, when we look at the whole genome, how many parts are there? That's 450 million differences. You think that's going to happen in a couple million years that come up? No, folks, not even close. Incidentally, 1% would be 30 million differences. They don't tell you that either. That's impossible to come up with, even in 6 billion years. Let's show you. 15% difference, 450 million differences. If you had 500,000 generations, let's go through 500,000 generations and see if we can make this thing work for evolution. We're going to give them every chance we can. 500,000 generations. And let's say all of them are 500,000 beneficiary mutations. So every new generation gets a new beneficiary mutation. That's unheard of, folks. That's completely unheard of. But we're going to give them 500 million beneficiary mutations here. One new one for every generation. That's less than 1/10 of 1% change in the genome. And we got to get to 15% now. We can't even get to 1%, can we? With every advantage we give the evolutionists. Genetics does not work for the evolutionist. It destroys the whole evolution model. But you know what I hear in the text and see in the textbooks? Evolution, or genetics is powerful evidence for evolution. It's kind of like politicians, say whatever you want. We need to make sure our students hear this so they can have confidence in God's word, that he created us male and female. David DeWitt, PhD in neurosciences. But this is only the beginning, because there are 40 to 45 million bases present in humans and missing from chimps. What? 45 million bases present in humans that are missing in chimps, as well as about the same number present in chimps that is absent from man. That is an enormous amount of differences between us and chimpanzees. It's not going to happen. Not even 30 billion years, it's not going to happen, folks. You know, one of the reasons it can't happen? Because we're going downhill. Every new generation is getting about 50 to 100 more mutations. You know who's responsible for that? Guess what happened in the garden that started mutations? Adam and Eve. That's when the curse came and death started. Okay. Also, they have a history of mistakes. I just want to go through a few of these. They have many, many supposed transitions. But now we know they can't be human transitions because there's no mechanism for that change. But let's start with this one. Nebraska man. Found in the early 1900s, 1920s. Claimed to be 1 million years old. Found a lot of evidence for Nebraska man. They found so much evidence, they could reconstruct the entire Nebraska man, his wife, family, and the environment they lived in. Tremendous amount of evidence. And put it all on display. What did they find? A single tooth. All they found was a single tooth. And from that tooth, they reconstructed the entire Nebraska man, wife, family, and everything. That doesn't sound like science at all. Now, if this is what they were teaching, is anybody here from Nebraska? Okay, good, good. I like that. If this is what they were teaching at the University of Nebraska, what does the N stand for on their football helmets? Knowledge. If I do that in high school, it takes a while before they get it. They don't have their spell checkers there. So Nebraska man was abandoned. Didn't take very long, they abandoned them. The whole thing was a fraud. Then we have Piltdown man, found in 1912, discovered fragments of skull and some teeth, claimed to be 500,000 years old. The age was then changed. After about 50 years, the age was changed to 50,000 years. In 1953, the whole thing was a hoax. But that lasted for 40 years in the public education system as the fact of human evolution, when in fact the whole thing was a fraud. Somebody took some human-like skull fragments and ape skull fragments, some teeth, filed the teeth down to make them fit, and then chemically stained them to make them look old. Isn't that sad? That's what evolution resorts to. Isn't that the same thing Satan resorts to? Liar, deceiver. And that's what evolution is. But this is the one they keep using quite a bit now. Lucy and the Australopithecines. Australo means southern, Pithecine, ape-like creature. Southern ape-like creatures. We name them that because they were found in southern parts of Africa. It's supposed to be a transition from an ape-like creature to a human being. Lucy is a type of Australopithecine. Now, how did Lucy get that name? Well, in the 1970s, when the paleontologist was out looking, he found Lucy. He found the skull fragments. He found it, you get to name it. At the time he found this fossil, there was a record playing on the radio called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds in Her Hair. So he decided to name this thing Lucy. About 40% of this fossil was found. That is a lot of fossil find for a creature like this, 40%. Lucy's supposed to be our transition creature, supposed to be about 3 million years old. I want to talk about some things here. In humans, our forehead and our chin go straight up and down. Apes go like this. Every Australopithecine we have found goes like this. But yet, the pictures they put in the textbooks are in between. That's fraud right there. None of this would hold up in a real court case. And then Lucy. You look at the eyes of those creatures down below. Those are all different pictures of Lucy. Notice one of them they have white eyes. Only humans have white eyes. So what have they done here? They didn't find any eyeballs with these creatures. They made them look white to make them look like they're transition. That's false information also. Then Lucy. They found Lucy's pelvic bone. Now, apes and humans are different in our pelvic bone structure. In apes, their pelvic bone goes like this, more lateral like this. They're quadrupeds. Does anybody here a quadruped? How about before you've had that first cup of coffee? Okay. Yeah, because their main form of locomotion is all fours. They can get up and walk on all twos, but that's not their main form of locomotion. They're all fours. We're bipeds because our main form of locomotion is 2 legs. So our pelvic bone goes straight up and down like this. Now, when they found Lucy's pelvic bone, it looked identical to an ape's. Got that? Looked identical to an ape. That did not meet what they wanted to find. So what they did is made a replica of the real fossil, took it back to the lab, sawed it apart, and then glued it back together again to make it look like a human. And we actually have that on film of them doing that. That is fraud also. So when they show Lucy, it's always walking upright, and the pelvic bone always looks like a human. That is not what we found. It looked exactly like an ape. And they reconstructed it to trick our students there. So the fossil evidence, Lucy has basically been discredited for a long time, but it's still one of the most popular ones they have in the textbooks. And the last part I want to go through is called the incredible human body. I'm going to show you something that is so incredible, it'll just take away any possibility of evolution. Any possibility. You're going to get an anatomy lesson here today. Anybody recognize any of those people there? How about the center? Anybody recognize the center figure there at the bottom? Usain Bolt, fastest known human being in all history. Off to the left is one of our American pole vaulters in the Olympics. He was famous for, he was also, I think he got the silver medal, the Olympics. He was famous for, during the Olympics, he was running down the runway with his vaulting pole at the Olympics, and the national anthem came on playing, and he stopped and stood at attention, faced the flag. And when it was all over, then did his jump. And the one off to the right, very famous, that's called grandchild. How many would like to do that on a beam that's about 4 inches wide? Did it once to be the last time you ever did it. Okay, let's take a look at the human body. You're made up of about 60 trillion cells. 60 trillion cells there. An adult human is made up of about 7 octillion atoms. And they tend to be in the right place. Everyone has a unique tongue print. We talk about fingerprint, but everybody has a unique tongue print. Aren't you glad when you don't have these doors now where you have to do the finger to recognize that it's not the tongue? You'd want to be first in line, wouldn't you? So everybody has a unique tongue print. The surface area of the lung, if you took it and spread it all out, it's half the size of a tennis court. God folded that lung to make maximum utilization of oxygen in there. It's perfectly designed to use oxygen. But if you took those lungs out, spread them all out, half the size of a tennis court. And that's right inside there. We shed about 1.5 pounds of skin a year, about 105 pounds by the age of 70. So that means the next time you dust your house, You've thrown some part of you away, aren't you? Every square inch of skin of the human body has 32 million bacteria on it, most of them harmless. Imagine every square inch, 32 million bacteria. It kind of makes you want to start scratching and itching, doesn't it? When we touch something, it sends a signal to the brain about 120 miles an hour. Now think about evolution on any one of these. It's not possible, folks. Number one, there's no mechanism for change. How would it ever do this with blindless random chance processes? In 1 square inch of your hand, you have 9 feet of blood vessels, 600 pain sensors, 9,000 nerve endings, 36 heat sensors, and 75 pressure sensors. 1 square inch of your hand. How in the world could that happen? The only answer we get, mutations, millions of years. That's not an answer, folks. We should never accept that answer. We should demand observable evidence. Don't let them get away with this. Red blood cells that transport oxygen to the body. White blood cells that rush to identify enemy agents and sacrifice themselves. Almost sounds like something we read in the Bible, isn't it? Sacrificing the cells for you. That's why you need to keep your white blood count up. Because they're constantly looking for enemies coming in. Okay? Let's take a look at this. If you were to take all your blood vessels and line them up, how many think that would stretch well over 200 miles? Yes? No? Okay. We'll try and take care of this group. How about 5? How could evolution ever make up that much? In other words, if you took a look at this, you'd go around the earth a couple of times, wouldn't you? Twice around the earth, your blood vessels. A heart that pumps about 100,000 times a day, depending on what your heart rate is. The average is what, about 72? Anybody have a lower one? Anybody know what your heart rate is? Did you know every second 2.5 million cells in your body are dying and being replaced? So right there where you're sitting, just sitting there, your body's doing a lot of work. Are you getting tired? 2.5 million cells are dying every second and being replaced. Aren't you glad God made a mechanism to replace them? They just wouldn't be here very long. That's 150 million every minute, 9 billion every hour, and 216 billion cells in your body die every day. And they're being replaced. That's an incredible mechanism there. How could evolution ever come up with that? You have some bones that are stronger than concrete. I advise you not to test them. A nose that can recognize and remember over 50,000 different scents. How many like to forget some? Eyes and ears, which are more complex than any machine mankind's ever made. Okay, here's your quiz for those of you who've had some biology and science. Anybody know the 3 parts of the ear? And you were thinking what? Outer, middle, and inner, weren't you? That's exactly right. So I knew you were one of those scientists there. That's right. It's outer, middle, and inner. What does the outer part do? It captures all these sound waves that are coming through the air. The middle part is where your eardrum is, and it amplifies the sound. But the inner part does something amazing. It converts those sound waves into electrical pulses and sends them to the brain. That is an amazing mechanism. How did that happen? No explanation. Just over millions of years it happened. More than half your bones are located in your hands, wrists, feet, and ankles. About 60% of you is made up of nothing more than water. So next time you're walking around, you can kind of hear yourself sloshing. And sneezes that can go up to about 100 miles an hour. So don't stand too close to people. Human skin is completely replaced about every 35 days. Wow. Isn't this incredible what God has designed for us? There's absolutely no way evolution can happen. This is all we really need to show, and then ask evolutionists, give me the observable information how this happened. Ooh, you get a new stomach lining every 3 to 4 days. Mine's probably 2 because I eat habaneros like candy. Why does this happen? Because you got that stomach acid in there, which is necessary for digesting food, but it also eats away at the lining of the wall. So every 3 to 4 days, you get a new stomach lining. How did evolution know to do that? About every 7 to 10 years, almost every cell in your body has been replaced. The brain doesn't get replaced too often. Every 7 to 10 years, almost every cell in your body has been replaced. So I'm going to use an example. She's not the same woman you married. She's been replaced. Just taking it to a logical conclusion here. Every organ that you have 2 of, you can get by with just 1. What an amazing design in there. Let's talk about proteins. There's a picture of a protein. Proteins are made up of amino acids. Now, amino acids come in 2 shapes. Just like we have left hand and right hand, come in 2 shapes. Are your left and right hand the same? 4 fingers and a thumb? Not quite. See, when I put them behind each other, notice the thumb and fingers on the opposite sides. Your left and right hand are really mirror images of each other. What I'm going to show you is an incredible design the evolutionists cannot get around. The amino acids come in these 2 shapes. Guess what we predominantly call them? Left-handed amino acids and right-handed amino acids. What's the difference? Well, just like our hands, they're made up of the same components, same atoms. But also like our hands, they are mirror images of each other. Why is that so important? That is important because every amino acid in every protein in your body, and you have trillions and trillions of these, is left-handed. You do not have a single right-handed amino acid in any protein in your body. Wow. Why is that so important? Because every experiment we have ever done always ends up with an even mixture of left and right-handed amino acids. And that is a poison to life. Life requires 100% left-handed amino acids in all biological proteins. Even if we start with all left-handed amino acids in an experiment, they will naturally revert back to a mixture of left and right-handed. You know what happens when we die? And we become as dead as we can be, and that will be pretty dead. All your left-handed amino acids start reverting back to a mixture of left and right-handed. So what is the best mankind has ever done in trying to create life? Create death. That's all we've ever done. What an amazing design God has done. You see, if you get one right-handed amino acid in that line link there, it causes the protein to fold the wrong way. And proteins do what they do by the way they fold. And it could cause no problem or it can cause serious problems. Sickle cell anemia is one amino acid change. See, proteins are made up of amino acids, all the way from about 50 amino acids up to about 30,000 amino acids. Our best scientists in the world can't even get one small one by chance. In all their labs, they can't come up with one. The natural tendency is always to bond left and right-handed. But life requires 100% left-handed in all living creatures. What a design that God has put there for us. Proteins range from about 50 to about 50,000. There are trillions of amino acids in the human body, and they're all left-handed in shape. What an incredible design God has put in. That right there alone shows that our scientists, not only can they not get a cell, we can't even come close to getting a cell. We can't even get a single small protein. So how in the world could evolution occur then? If we can't even get a single protein, it's over. Let's talk about your brains. Weighs about 3 pounds. Don't put it on a diet. Has trillions of connections, more connections in the brain than all the computers and the internet in the world. Trillions of calculations a second. So why does it take you so long to do your math? The answer there is, see, your brain has to interpret everything your eyes see and everything your ears hear. So it's constantly working. That's why you need that sleep at night, not to be thinking. Or as men, we can do that very easily when we're awake. Think about nothing, can't we? See, it's a built-in mechanism. Quintillion bits of information can be stored in the brain. Let's talk about things called neurons. There are approximately 86 billion neurons in your brain woven together by an estimated 100 trillion connections. There's what a neuron basically looks like there. 86 billion neurons. What do? Processing the brain. They send messages 10 to 50 times every second. That amounts to about 20 billion messages sent every second. Because of all the neurons you have, about 20 billion messages are sent every second in your brain. Wow, that's a lot of activity going on there. Neurons are nerves in the brain that send messages for breathing, talking, eating, walking, and thinking. That's what they're for, send messages to do all these correctly. I'm going to mess you up here. Anybody thinking about breathing right now? Now you have to think about breathing. What would happen if God didn't design us so our breathing would go automatic? We had to think about it to make it work. What would happen? Would anybody go to sleep at night if breathing only worked when we had to think about making it work? Aren't we glad God designed us that way so we don't have to think about it? You're going to be thinking about it all the night now, aren't you? It's kind of like when you sneeze. What do your eyes do when you sneeze? You're closed. You have to think about that. It's an automatic mechanism. Because if you didn't close your eyes, no, your eyeballs are not going to drop out into your soup, but it's going to put a pressure on there and it's going to hurt a little bit. So God designed us so our eyes automatically close when we sneeze. And we breathe automatically. We don't have to worry about that. There are about 86 billion neurons in your brain linked together by 100 trillion connections. About 20 billion messages sent every second again. Now, let's take a look at storage. You get a good camera, about 100,000 photos you can store in a good camera, depending on the quality. The brain can store easily over 700 million of those. Very easily. So what we can do with cameras doesn't even compare to what the brain can do. The strongest muscle in your body is, guess what? The masseter. That's so we can talk a lot, right? No, so we can chew. Okay, here's a question. Especially with this group here. Has your borborygmus been bothering other people? No? How about over here? Is anybody over here? Borborygmus been bothering anybody? It's the only thing you're going to remember out of this whole talk. That's a scientific term for a growling stomach. Okay. We have a liver that has over 500 different functions. That alone just eliminates evolution. We have eyes that are fully grown at birth. Your face just grows around your eyes. It takes 12 muscles to smile, 11 to frown. So if you want to exercise more, smile. Every second, there are about 37,000 billion chemical reactions taking place in the human body. That is an incredible number that looks like that. Every second, that many chemical reactions are happening in your body. How could evolution ever think of something like that? Let's talk about faster than a speeding bullet now. Enzymes are proteins that help speed up chemical reactions in our bodies by millions of times. Enzymes are a very special kind of protein that speed things up in your body. Without enzymes, some of the processes in your body would take 70 million years to happen. You're all dead, aren't you? How would evolution ever think it needs enzymes? Without them, your bodies can't exist. But they speed reactions up in your body so much that you can live. They're necessary. So how to make a human? Okay, now we're going to go to the lab. How to make a human. Okay, you're in a science class. The assignment is to make a living human body. And you're going to start with the following ingredients, because this is what you are. 58 pounds of oxygen, 50 quarts of water, 2 ounces of salt, 3 pounds of calcium, 24 pounds of carbon, some chlorine phosphorus fat, and some iron sulfur. That's what you start with, and a little glycerin. That's your ingredients to make a human body. So now you have all the ingredients. All that would fit in about 2 shopping bags. Your assignment. You now have all the chemical ingredients to make a human body. What else do you need? How about the instructions? Without the instructions, it's pretty difficult, isn't it? Guess where we find the instructions? Only one place. It's called the Bible. God is the only one that can make life. With all the incredible scientific knowledge we know today, all the computers we have today, we still cannot make one small biological protein. The argument's over. Evolution versus the facts. Human body with all its amazing components is so vastly complex, scientists are unable to figure out how it actually evolved. There's no observable science to support the evolution model. None. How do you make a human? I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. Romans 1:19, God has given us all the evidence. No one has excuse for not believing in a creator God. He created everything in 6 little days, and we came in on day 6. Incidentally, day 6 is the same day he made the dinosaurs, isn't it? So right there in Genesis 1, it teaches humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time. And guess what? All the scientific evidence today supports that. Summary and conclusion. God must exist, because without creator God, nothing could exist. There is no mechanism for the needed evolutionary changes. No such thing as natural selection. It's continuous environmental tracking, CET. Genetics, 1% difference is false information, false teaching. Can you imagine if we had 2 or 3 of our Christian students in a biology classroom together? One raises her hand and said, "Oh, did you know the latest?" In a polite way, I've read where the latest information, geneticists have shown that we're about 15% difference, and that's about 450 million differences. Could you help me understand how this happened now? And a second one say the same thing. Can you imagine what kind of a witness that would be to the other students in the classroom? See, we're not out there to put the teacher in a corner. But a simple question like that, putting information in the question, can be a powerful witness to other students in that classroom. I have a question. Why don't we do that? Why don't we decide to train our youth to be able to have this information and be witnesses in the public school system? We have all the information. It's just, for some reason, Christians have decided we don't want to do this. But we can. Keep that in mind. I'm willing to come down and help in any way we can to get this up and going so we can start protecting our students. They have a history of mistakes, and the incredible human body, fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, CTI, Creation Training Initiative, is our ministry. I have some brochures down here that talk about our 6 different courses we offer. We offer training courses. Basic creation training is for teens and above. 1-day course goes 8:30 to 5:30. We cover what the days of creation were, theological problems with an old earth. We cover the flood. We cover some of the origin of life, natural selection. We cover a little bit of apologetics in there. These courses are, again, for teens and above. You get a 100-page manual for that one. We have the advanced apologetics training where we answer some tough questions. Show you how to answer. How can you call God good when he allows all this evil to continue? We answer many other questions. We do a whole lesson on critical thinking skills and tactics. Then we have apologetics for the 21st century. That one covers the entire woke agenda, from climate change to COVID-19 to the LGBTQ to global reset, all of that in there, and how to respond. We have communication and teaching skills. That's a 3-day course. We only take 8 people in that one. What we do is train you how to speak and teach. It's a coaching time. For 3 days, we coach you on speaking and teaching. Then we have Dynamics of Christian Education. That's a 1-day class. If you want to learn about Christian education, what we can be doing, that's a class to take. Then June, this year, every June, we go down to the Institute for Creation Research in Dallas, Texas, and we put on a 3-day Christian Educators Conference. We have a lot of teachers from around the country coming. We have non-teachers coming to that. Homeschoolers need to be there. We talk all about the creation evolution, the woke agenda, so we cover a lot of those issues. We even cover a whole chapter on AI and transhumanism, the dangers where we're going there. So those are the 6 courses that we teach. And say that That 3-day course at ICR's Discovery Center in Dallas, Texas, June 11th through the 14th, it'll cost you a whopping $75 because we want people to get trained. We lose a lot of money every year on that one, but it's more valuable to us to get the people in and get them trained than the money. God provides. So if you want to contact us, Building an Army of Christian Educators. Our ministry is there to train others to speak and teach. And we have a whole list of all the talks I do down here. And in the back, Azosa, your creation ministry here in Arizona. Here's one by Dr. Randy Galuza. Remember we had some quotes from him in there? The Human Body, Divine Engineering. Great video by him on that one. They have that one back there. If you're interested in tactics, a little bit of critical thinking, the scientific approach to evolution shows you how it fails at every level. It's not super technical, so it's probably about medium at most. Here's another one, Some of the Woke Agenda, The Cost by Russ Miller. It's not a technical manual, but how did we get in this situation? What's been happening along here? So Russ does a great job there. Then we have another book. This is from Answers in Genesis. I think they have two of them back there. I wrote 2 chapters in here. One is the origin of life. The other one is all about information. What is information? Where does it come from? And this is a book that's great for teens, junior hires. You don't have to read the whole book. Just each chapter is about 10, 12 pages long. Covers different topics. So you can just take it whatever once you want to go there. So a lot of great courses, a lot of great materials back there. Just think our children need these. You can read through them, and then you can start training the children and grandchildren. So can I open it up to a few question and answers here? Oh, let's questions, and I'll see if I have any answers. Anybody have a question on any area? Yes. 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 Okay, good question. We weren't there to observe creation either, but we do have the eyewitness account of a creator God who was there, and he gave us this information. Because without a creator God, nothing could exist. And that's where I go right there with that one. So he has to exist, and here's his word. He told us this is his word. And that'll turn it right back. Now, I gave you an answer. Can you give me the observable evidence for that? Don't let them get a buy there. They turned it around on you and changed it on you. You go ahead and give that answer, then you turn right now. You show me the observable evidence or empirical evidence for your claim. That does not require me to use faith. That's the tactics. Give you an idea. I was at a secular university. I did my talk, and at the end, I know what they want to do. They want to destroy me and the Bible and everything I talk about. That's what happens when you go to secular universities. They just want to destroy you. And they were asking questions, and I was answering them. That's not hard to do sometimes. But one of them stood up and read from the Bible. Said, Mike, says right here in the Bible, and he read from it, people live to be 900 years old. And then he asked me a question. Do you believe that? I know he was trying to discredit me. And I know he was looking for some technical answer. But one of the things I trained is don't be so fast to answer questions. You could shoot yourself in the foot. Because once you give information, you have to be able to defend it. So hold your information in your hip pocket. So my answer was this. Kind of stopped him for just a second. He said, do you believe people live to be 900 million years, or 900 years old? And I said, yes, don't you? He wasn't expecting that answer. And he said, no. He didn't know. He just lost the entire argument. And I was in control of it. And he said, no. And I said, why don't you? And his answer was, it's never been observed. He just dug himself deeper. So I asked him the next question. Do you believe that life originated by naturalistic processes? Because he's an evolutionist, he had to say yes. So my next statement was, has that ever been observed? And he sat back down because he just noticed he contradicted himself. I never had to answer the question. Yeah, we had another question. Does that answer your question there? Give an answer. Don't be afraid to give a good biblical answer, but turn it right back around. Yes, sir. What is God's? What does God is real? Means he's a real spiritual being. He really exists out there. It is true that, and you know what? He once came down as a man, didn't he? Jesus Christ. Fully God and fully man. What an amazing thing he did. And he worked many miracles, didn't he? We can't do those, but God can. Only God can do miracles. Thank you. Very good question. I have lots of questions. So if we don't have any more questions, use the rest of your time to look at the resources. It's almost Christmas time again. Yes, sir. Yes, I would not want to be in an airplane and jump out with no parachute. Because God invented gravity too, and we can't change it. So I want to thank you very, very much for coming out this evening. Again, there's lots of resources. We have some of our brochures up here with all our courses and everything. Watch out for that borborygmus, okay? It's harder on teenagers because they're constantly hungry. We got a big job to do, don't we? And it can be done, but we need to start learning ourselves so we can start training our children with it. Starting in the early grades. And it's all of tactics. Make sure they can believe the Bible. I'll be doing one more talk while I'm here in Arizona. It'll be at First Baptist Sierra Vista. And there I'm going to be talking about why the Bible is true. It'll be at, 6 o'clock also? 6 o'clock on Wednesday. Why the Bible is true. And I'll be going through at least 6 different evidences there. Okay, does anybody remember what you were supposed to remember? No, that's okay. If you have more questions, I'll be up here, but look at the resources. You can send them to friends. Read a book if you don't want any more, or a DVD you don't want any more. Don't throw it away. Go to a dentist's office or doctor's office and leave it there. Somebody else might pick it up because it acts like a tract then, doesn't it? Okay. So support your local ministry here. They're the ones that supply all the resources there. Yes? What is natural selection? How does it work? Who or what is doing the intelligent selecting? And where did all the incredible information of DNA come from? Good.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.